Previously on Otaku Evolution.
Terrible, inaccurate scripts? Voice actors playing 4 or more unrelated roles identically? Dreadful
Extreme!
repackaging? Complete with an insulting choice to replace the music? Yep! Funimation sure pulled out every tool in their bag to mutilate the original product.
When I see lists of the best English dubs for anime, the same titles keep popping up. Cowboy Bebop, Black Lagoon, Hellsing, Trigun, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Haruhi, Ghibli Films, and others. Sensible choices all. But one title I can't fathom or tolerate being amongst the best dubs is one that has haunted me for decades. Dragon Ball Z. Really? Dragon Ball Z? Dragon Ball Z is one of the best English dubs? Dragon Ball Z's dub is up there with Cowboy Bebop's and Hellsing's? How many anime have the people who say that even seen? Dragon Ball Z's dub not only isn't among the greatest dubs, it's not even a good dub. It's actually a very crappy dub. And to be clear, I'm talking about the Funimation-produced DBZ dub, from the Ocean years to the in-house period and to the redub era. I'm aware of even worse English dubs for DBZ material, like the Speedy dub or the Big Green dub, but those dubs are largely irrelevant in the fandom. They're not even worth discussing. I'm also aware that the dub to Dragon Ball Z Kai exists, largely compensating for the mistakes of the past. But a lot of people hate that dub and rank the original Z dub above it, despite its objective superiority. I'll mention the Kai dub here and there in this video. Thing is, people still think of the DBZ dub as good. Let me try my best to disabuse them of this erroneous notion. When I think of how bad the DBZ dub is, my mind immediately goes to the scripts. An anime's dub should largely reflect the Japanese version. Not a perfect reflection, mind you. Japanese and English are two very different languages, but sensibly and without many embellishments or unnecessary flourishes. DBZ scripts have only the very basic elements of the Japanese original. The rest is a bunch of shit Funimation pulled out of its ass. To a certain extent, I can forgive the Ocean era, still Funimation produced by the way, because of all the television standards they had to abide by. It was still a terrible hack job where they cut out scenes and entire episodes somewhat arbitrarily, but it was an unfortunate product of its time. When Funimation started doing things in-house and releasing so-called uncut versions of the show on VHS and DVD, they had a chance to really do the show justice. But did they? No. They kept just inventing dialogue, even adding dialogue where there wasn't any originally. And we're talking about dialogue that completely changes the points of important scenes. Just look at the scene where Kuririn, yes, I'm using Kuririn, is about to finish off Vegeta and Goku stops him to ask him to spare him. In the English dub, it's because sparing Vegeta will show him that they're better than him. But in the original, that isn't the reason at all.
Vegeta might do the same thing for one of us someday. Krillin, please! I know this is the right thing to do. You've got to trust me.
But the Saiyans killed Yamcha! And Tien! Jiaotsu! I can't let him get away!
Don't do it, Krillin. I know it seems like justice, but it's not right.
Notice the difference in characterization there? The Japanese version of Goku, the real Goku, only wants to have the chance to fight Vegeta again because it's fun to him. Because it tests his limits. In Funimation's dub, we get a more traditional heroic motivation for sparing Vegeta, making Goku a flatter, dime-a-dozen superhero. Those kinds of heroics have their place, but not with Goku. It misses the point of the character. He just wants to fight strong guys. There's a scene in the Frieza arc where Vegeta is dying from a blast through the heart from Frieza. In the English dub, Vegeta laments his lot in life, that Frieza made him into who he is, and must be stopped before he can do it to anyone else. Fairly sentimental for Vegeta this early on, isn't it? Well, that's because it isn't what he's crying about in the Japanese version. In that, his pride is breaking, begging Goku to avenge the pride of the Saiyans. Not their lives, their pride.
Vegeta! 頼むフリーザを倒してくれ頼むサイヤ人のてっぺん
Please, no more. Save your strength.
Kakarot, please, destroy Frieza. He made me what I am. Don't let him do it to anyone else. Whatever it takes, stop him, please.
There's a scene in the beginning of the Androids and Cell arc where Bulma is hanging out with Yamcha, Puar, and Oolong, and for some reason, in the dub, Yamcha sings a cat food jingle, and Bulma tells him about a romantic dream she had about Vegeta. The only thing the dub got right there was that they talked about Vegeta. Pretty much everything else is made up. The disrespect the dub has for the original dialogue is palpable. Funimation was trying to be cute and funny, but were neither. But to me, the cardinal sin of Dragon Ball Z's dub, script-wise, is getting my favorite moment in the whole series wrong. In the Cell games, Cell crushes Android 16's head, causing Gohan to finally transform into the next full stage of Super Saiyan 2. In the original, when 16's head is destroyed, Gohan is silent, reeling from what happened, unable to find words or thoughts. Then he just snaps and transforms. It also helps that there's a boss-censored song here. But in the English dub, instead of silence from Gohan, we get this inner monologue about how 16 loved life and Gohan won't take it anymore, blah blah. Sometimes less is more, DBZ dub. Adding words where there weren't any dumbs down the product, and DBZ wasn't advanced calculus to begin with. These are not the only examples of this sort of thing happening in the scripts. A miss like this is just emblematic of the entire dub's brazen disrespect for the material. Watch how the Kai dub has respect for the original material.
穏やかな心を持ちながら激しい怒りによって目覚めた伝説の戦士
I am protector of the innocent. I am the light in the darkness. I am truth. Allied to good! Nightmare to you! I am the warrior you've heard of in legends, pure of heart and awakened by fury. That's what I am. I am the Super Saiyan Son Goku!
The next part is a bit more subjective than the scripts. This is where I talk about the voice acting in the Funimation dub. If you can call it acting. I can't in good conscience. Okay, acting-wise, there certainly have been worse dubs. At least some of these people are putting in an effort. I just question a lot of the casting choices and deliveries. I mean, a lot of them. And sure, the bad scripts made things worse, but it's very clear that a lot of the cast were amateur voice actors when they took their roles. The Japanese cast was already an all-star lineup of amazing super talents by the time Z rolled around. Now, I'm not fluent in Japanese, so my view of Japanese voice acting is mostly based on inflection. But I do speak pretty good English, and I can hear very clearly that the dub cast was not particularly good for a very long time. Whether it was the rough, overly stern and forced Goku of Sean Schemmel, Chris Sabat's identical-sounding Vegeta and Piccolo, which didn't become distinct until well into the dub, Stephanie Nodolny's overly husky-sounding Gohan, Tiffany Vollmer's squealy Valley Girl Bulma voice, the just wrong Frieza voice in Linda Young. But then she was just continuing Pauline Newstone's legacy of missing the point of the character. The dozens of other character voices Sabat did that were just dreadful. And the deliveries, yikes. Half of these actors couldn't act to save their lives, and the other half were hampered by bad scripts and probably piss-poor direction. It's an embarrassing dub to have to listen to.
It looks like he took pity on you, loser. That's too bad. You're so pathetic. Now he knows you're scared. Next time he won't show you any mercy at all.
What?
Open the chamber.
If they set that android free, it will be the end of all of us! No!
A lot of people will say, so what? They improved over time, didn't they? Well, yes and no. Some of them improved. Slightly. I don't think Sabat's Vegeta got there until the redub of the early portion of Z, and as Piccolo when Kai was dubbed. Schimmel's Goku improved for Kai as well. I never really had a problem with Sunny Street's Kudiden, but he improved for Kai nevertheless. But I never really vibed with Cynthia Kranz's Chi-Chi, John Bergmeyer's Tenshinhan, or Sabat's Raccoon. Even when Kai came around, there were performances I didn't care for. I would have done a lot more recasting than Kai did. The Kai cast did, for the most part, do quite well, even if it was mostly returning VAs. Schimmel's Goku has sounded more flexible and breezy since then. Sabat's Vegeta and Piccolo are two distinct characters with different deliveries. And he took fewer roles, letting other voice actors fill parts he had previously played, all to good effect. Good for him, it all worked out. While there is some controversy over the recasting, I find Colleen Klinkenbeard a superior child Gohan, and Monica Rial a more pleasant and warm-sounding Bulma. Of course, a less controversial choice was that of the late great Chris Ayres as Frieza, bringing with him all the wickedly sophisticated qualities that made Frieza such a sharp villain, following well in Ryusei Nakao's footsteps. But there were a few rare performances I liked in the original Z-dub too. For instance, Chuck Huber and Meredith McCoy as Android 17 and 18. Klinkenbeard was a fine 18 in Kai, but I'm glad McCoy returned for Dragon Ball Super. Her 18 has a bit of a biting edge to it that works really well. Kyle Abert's older Gohan brings the great Saiyaman persona to life well. Chris Rager's Mr. Satan is always fun. Rick Robertson's Dabura works too, as does Laura Bailey's Trunks and Kara Edwards as Goten and Videl. Other roles varied, but it was clear much of the main cast was struggling during Z, which is why Kai is such a kami-send.
I am a Saiyan that was raised on planet Earth. And in the name of every single Saiyan that you've made suffer, for them, and all the people of planet Namek too, I will defeat you!
One of the big problems with the Dragon Ball Z dub, with both the script and voice acting, is the characterization of Goku. As I said in my favorite anime characters list video, the English dub version of Goku was, for the longest time, just a stripped-down basic bitch hero of justice stereotype, instead of the Kung Fu Huck Finnish hick who loves to fight Akira Toriyama intended him to be. Goku, in the English dub, has always been painted as this more traditional, all-loving, stalwart and collected defender. And there's nothing wrong with this characterization for other fictional characters per se, but it makes Goku seem watered down compared to the Japanese original. Goku isn't supposed to be some grand minister of peace and liberty. He's a quirky, imperfect fightaholic with a lack of sophistication. And this is why Masako Nozawa in the Japanese version is so perfect as Goku, even well into his adulthood. Now, some of you out there utterly refuse to watch the Japanese version of Z because of Nozawa's portrayal, because of her more high-pitched voice that ill-fits the phenotype of Goku's buff and broad body. This is a very dumb reason to avoid the brilliantly cast Japanese version with so many excellent performances, Mayumi Tanaka, Ryo Horikawa, and Norio Wakamoto, among others. And it misses the point of the character of Goku, too. Goku is a giant man-child with a hickish way of speaking. Nozawa's Goku has a sing-songy quality to her chirpy voice, giving Goku the quality of sounding like a slight evolution of her child Goku voice. I feel like a problem in the fandom is just an innate misunderstanding or revulsion with the genuine characterization of Goku. It's like the dub fans are watching a completely different character than I am, a different character than Toriyama created. And in many ways, it's true. I would even go as far as saying that the English dub of DBZ is in its own way a different show than the Japanese version, and in my opinion, at least, a far inferior one.
ナメック星その他の星のみんなのために言っておるのだ。中途半端な攻撃を仕掛けて奴の怒りを買えばとんでもないことが起こるぞ。あいつだけは放っておくしかないのだ。
そんなにすげえやつなのか。ちょっと見てみてな。
絶対に近寄るんじゃないぞ。わかったか。
でもさ。
でももうヘチマもない。
And now for something even more subjective than the voice acting. The music! What's the deal with the music of Dragon Ball Z? Well, it depends on the version, right? But the only genuine soundtrack to DBZ is the Kikuchi score. Everything else is kind of an insult. My first exposure to the Japanese score of DBZ, the music of the late great Shunsuke Kikuchi, was the Toonami airing of the first DBZ movie, Dead Zone. This was during the Ocean years, by the way. Unlike in the TV show at the time, the movie Dead Zone did not have the replacement score by Shuki Levy and Ron Wasserman. I took notice of the music and how vastly different it was than what I was used to in DBZ. It was some time later that I discovered that the real music of DBZ was orchestral, with woodwind, brass, and string instruments, just like the score of the movie I had watched. As I mentioned some time ago, Dragon Ball in general is essentially wuxia. For more on wuxia, consult my Giant Robo video. But as it is wuxia, the characters derive their power from a natural energy, and so a more natural orchestral sound is fitting. This is the main reason Kikuchi's score works so well to me. Granted, it's not a perfect soundtrack. It does have an excess of vibroslap, for instance. But man, when it hits hard. Then there's the English dub soundtrack. Wait, why is there even an English dub soundtrack to begin with? Who replaces the music of a show? Imagine, if you will, somebody replacing the music to Cowboy Bebop, Evangelion, or Death Note with something else. Wild, right? Why would you replace the music of an anime to begin with, let alone with something so entirely a departure as the Faulkner and Johnson scores are from the Kikuchi score? It's absurd! The Japanese original music to DBZ is just as much a part of the show as Escaflowne's is to it. Replacing it is a form of cultural chauvinism, the belief that American creatives can do better than the Japanese creatives. It's deeply offensive to the source material. You might as well paint over Surats a Sunday afternoon. For Dende's sake, the Kikuchi music is the actual music of Dragon Ball Z. Even if you don't like it, it's the real music of the show. If Funimation felt the music wasn't good enough, they should have licensed a different show. Then there's the music itself. Nathan Johnson's music, much like Shuki Levy and Ron Wasserman's, It's pretty much just wallpaper sound without much character, so it's not even worth talking about. It's the Bruce Faulkner soundtrack that seems to have the English language DBZ fandom raving. And I won't lie, I like a couple of tracks in it myself. Vegeta's theme, you know, the one with the bells, is quite good. Ginyu Transformation sounds like it could be in the Japanese soundtrack. And then there's Super Saiyan 3's theme, which sounds like it came out of a great classic video game. But a lot of the Faulkner score is either annoying or just plain bad. And it's used all the time. There's rarely a moment of silence in the dub. The music has an artificial sound to it that doesn't suit wuxia. It's very extreme 90s radical power. And that creates a completely different atmosphere than was intended for the show, much to its detriment. Just look at how the music changes the atmosphere of a scene. In the scene where Goku becomes the Super Saiyan the first time, the English dub tries to hype it up as something really badass and impressive. But the Japanese original painted it with music that emphasized a horror element to the transformation. We are supposed to be terrified. Some people have even synced Kai with the Faulkner score. I admire their efforts, but it's so silly. The Faulkner music is not the music of DBZ or of DBZ Kai. It should have no place anywhere in Dragon Ball. Don't get me started on the rock band music for the movies. It's perverse. But Mike, some of you might be saying, it's just DBZ. Why can't I just enjoy it how I want to? It's my favorite anime, while you wouldn't even rank it amongst your top 40. Surely I'm a bigger fan of it than you. Who are you to tell me that the version I love isn't the real DBZ? To which I answer, enjoy it however you want, but realize that your preferred version is essentially a different show than the one intended. Sure, it's broadly the same, energy-chucking aliens and androids locked in combat in barren landscapes. But what little nuance DBZ does have is completely muted out by the hokey-jokey, extreme atmosphere Funimation invented for the English dub. I'm so glad that Kai came along, because those folks largely redeemed themselves. However, the stench of the old days remains in the fandom. If you can't tell why I dislike the English dub of Dragon Ball Z by now, I doubt that I can impress on you any more than I've tried. I know it sounds like I'm gatekeeping here, but I'm just being honest about the dub's many deficits. I'm glad I was able to unload about this. It was a long time coming. Is there more I could say? Probably. But I've said enough for now. Next time on Otaku Evolution, we'll be revisiting the Gundam franchise. Until then, this is Mike, Penguin Truth. See ya!
Cat loves food, yeah.
You goof! You're such a nut!